Welcome to this episode of the Happy Workaholic Podcast. I'm your host, Kellyanne Gorman. I'm a business coach, luxury travel expert, and lifestyle blogger, currently residing in the beautiful city of Las Vegas. The Happy Workaholic Podcast is a happy, healthy, positive, and very productive show about living life in the fast lane, learning how to slow down, and how to become the best version of yourself through inspiration, motivation, and determination, both personally and professionally. If this sounds like something you're in need of in your life, then you've come to the right spot. I'll be sharing some of my favorite business tips, personality, and crazy stories from my own career choices. You will also be hearing from a few of my friends who happen to be entrepreneurs like myself. Don't forget, the conversation continues after the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under the hashtag #TheHappyWorkaholic. Now, if you want to hear any of my exclusive news first, just visit my website, kellyannegorman.com, and sign up to receive my weekly VIP newsletter. Now let's get started with today's show. Hey everyone, happy Friday. I'm finally back with a new podcast. I had to take a little bit of a break dealing with some health issues, which I will be updating on other podcasts. But in the meantime, today I wanted to talk about how to go about getting your dream job, what you should do in order to create or land that perfect job that you have on your vision board or something that you've just been dreaming about or working your behind off for to get you to that level for that dream job that you actually want. So I wanted to share a story with you, a personal story about how I was able to land one of my dream jobs and actually help create it a very, very long time ago. So if you don't know by now, if you've read my bios or you follow me on social or LinkedIn, I was a pro makeup artist for about 16 years. And back in the day, in 2004, I believe it was, I was working for MAC Cosmetics outside of Boston, and I think I was there a little bit over a year, and I just started to get the travel bug again. I needed to start traveling. And side note, I used to work on a very small cruise line that went from Newfoundland to all the way down through the Panama Canal as a stewardess. And so I was able to travel I did that for about 3.5 years, I think, before I started my makeup career. So I had traveled quite a bit all over the world. And then once I got into makeup, which is what I was obsessed with at the time, I wanted to somehow put the two together. So I started researching different cruise lines, large cruise lines. I'm talking Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Celebrity, big ships. And if they had makeup artists, I wanted to be that girl doing makeup for the guests, for the ice cast, for the dance cast. I wanted to be the go-to makeup artist. And so I just started researching, and I made my list, just like I always make lists for everything else. And I wrote down a pro and cons list. And basically they were all pros because I wanted to create or land this job of being a makeup artist on bigger cruise lines and being able to travel the world. So once I started doing my research, this was 2004. So literally all I had was Google and websites. And it is so much easier now to create a job that you want or do your research because we have so many platforms out there now. Like LinkedIn is a big one that I use every day when I need to research anything. LinkedIn is basically my Google when it comes to business. But back in 2004, all I literally had was Google, MySpace if I needed it, and the cruise ships websites. So I literally would go to each one, scroll all the way down, go to the contact us page, which how many people do you think are contacting these huge cruise lines from all around the world? Like hundreds and thousands. And here I am like looking for a job, and I would fill out all these online applications, which took forever. And I was faxing back then. Like, no, oh my gosh, this was so long ago. It's bringing back so many memories telling you this story. But I literally would apply for a job and then I would put spa because that was the only option, and that was actually outsourced. So most of the stores on board and the spa, they're actually not run by Royal Caribbean or Carnival. It's an outside company. So then my information would get forwarded to that outside spa, but nothing said makeup artist. I didn't want to be an esthetician. I didn't go to school for that. I went to art school almost my whole life, and then I was trained to be a makeup artist, and that's what I wanted to do, was paint faces all day long. So I just had to keep on clicking other or miscellaneous. So, HR is looking through this, like, what does this girl want? And so I was determined to, one, find a person that I could physically speak with on the phone, because, like I said, back in 2004, 2005, all we had were the 1-800 numbers and their website and their contact us page. So basically that was those were my only go-tos. So like I usually and still always do, I was following up like a mad woman. And I had contacted every large cruise line in the hopes of just getting somebody on the phone so that I could ask them the question, do makeup artists exist? So once I got through all of that, which, by the way, this whole process from beginning to end took me, from the moment I started contacting different cruise lines to the moment that I signed a contract, was almost a year, a little bit under a year. So actually it was probably, it was like 8 months. And the research part and the contacting part alone took almost 6 months to get somebody on the phone. I was like absolutely determined. And meanwhile, I was living in Rhode Island, and I was driving outside Boston. So in the snow, in the winter, my 45-minute drive was an hour and a half each way. So I would be driving 3 hours a day, working 8-9 hours a day. Those are 12-hour days driving in snow, black ice, and then you get home, you're exhausted, and then you have to do it all over again. And I was just over it. I wanted to be in the Caribbean. I wanted to travel the world again, and I wanted to paint faces and do the craft that I loved. And so those months waiting and researching and being persistent it just seemed like it took so much longer than it actually did. But when you do go through that process, the average time really is 6 months. So I think I did a pretty good job on my own, just creating what I ended up getting. So back to my story, I ended up about 8 months getting on the phone with somebody who told me that there are 0 makeup artist jobs, and the girls that work in the spa have one product, and they use one product for their eyes, cheeks, and lips, and that was it, their spa. So they didn't do full-blown makeup. They didn't have a product line on board, nothing. And the spa company was actually based in the UK. So then I started calling them, asking them, would there ever be an opportunity to have just full-on makeup artists, and that's it. And they said, unfortunately, no. We train everybody here, and then we send them to different ships to train, but it's all spa. So nobody had an answer for me that I wanted to hear about. Yes, we have makeup artists on board. Come apply today. None of that happened, but I was determined to create this position. So actually, I think that was around the 6-month mark. This was so long ago. So I wrote down these notes, and I was trying to piece together like how long this process actually took. But it was about 8 months from beginning to end when I actually did sign that contract. So around the 6-month time is when I started talking to people and getting information. And then I found out that there were retail stores on board the cruise ships. Now, if you've ever been on a cruise ship, it's usually deck 5 and mid-level of the ship where they have all of their shops. And they are duty-free, and there is a store on all the ships that has all the duty-free makeup and fragrance and skincare and body care and all that fun stuff. So there's obviously another company that owns all of those stores. So I ended up getting their contact information. So I started, and they were in the States. They were in Miami. So I didn't have to call an 800 number anymore. I literally pressed every single extension until I heard a voice that actually picked up their line so that I could get an answer from somebody. Like, do you have a makeup artist job? Do you want to have a makeup artist job? So after that process, I was able to get in touch with the buyer who her job was to purchase all the products duty-free from Lancome and Clinique and Estee Lauder and other makeup lines and fragrance lines. And she could not believe that I was calling at this time because they were in talks of putting together some kind of a program to train the girls that actually work in the duty-free stores on how to actually apply makeup for the guests. So as of that day, they were actually, their job, they actually would rotate stores. We call them shoppies, the guys and girls that work in all the shops, duty-free shops. So the shoppies would, according to their schedule, rotate stores. So anyway, so they were looking to kind of put together a program down the road, and that would actually train the girls or guys that were working in the fragrance and beauty duty-free stores to, like I said, be a makeup artist, actually know how to use the product, because that didn't exist as of that time. So I think I had at least 6 phone interviews, because I said to them, listen, I am a professional makeup artist and I've worked on cruise ships. Not at your magnitude, obviously, because ours was only 100 guests. Now we're talking 3,500 to 5,000 guests on board. But I know my craft. I know what I'm doing. I have a personality. I have an extremely hard work ethic. I'm nonstop. I'm persistent, obviously, because they have now heard about me. I'm faxing them like crazy. Like, this is so long ago. I was faxing all of these people my resume. And so they had heard of me. And so we put the puzzle pieces together. This is a very long story short. And they asked me if I would be interested in meeting them in Miami. So I put in for a couple days off at MAC. Meanwhile, my friend was my manager. And to hide this for months was like the hardest thing ever. Like, I didn't tell anyone. And if you know me, when I'm excited about something, I tell everyone. Like, it's so hard, especially now with business, when I want to launch something and I have to keep it top secret. It's like the hardest thing ever, because I'm excited. I'm working my butt off and I want to launch something and I just want to say it right away, but you can't. So I had kept that secret for like 6 months. So I ended up requesting a couple days off, and I flew down to Miami, and I met the company that owns and runs all the stores. And so that I had 3 interviews in that one day. And they said, okay, so we actually have other people. I'm like, other people? Like, I helped create this position. Like, how are there other people? And I was kind of bummed. Like, I've literally spent so many months doing this, and like, this job is mine. Like, I've created it. It's on my vision board. I have to have this job. Like, it's in my, like, I'm not giving up. So I hadn't heard back for, once I flew back to Boston, they said I'd hear in a couple days. It was a week and a half. I was dying inside waiting for these people to call me. So they called me and they said, we really, want to have you on board, no pun intended, and let's move forward with the next step. So the next step was to meet with the company that wanted to hire me. So that was Lancome. So I had to then put in for a couple more days time off and fly back to Miami. And so I think that was probably 2 or 3 weeks later. So I flew back down to Miami, and now it's summer. It's hot as hell in Miami in the summer. It is so humid. But here I am, a professional makeup artist. I have my full hair and makeup done. I'm in a black suit, like dripping sweat, and I'm in the AC now into their office. Get out of the car, I'm dripping sweat, literally. It's like 2-second walk. Get inside the building, and I'm, of course, so nervous because I find out that there's 6 people that just flew in from France, and we're going to have a lunch meeting. A lunch interview / meeting. And I'm like, oh my God, this could not be any more nerve-wracking. And then they wanted to walk across the street to lunch. So not only was I sweating from like the 2-second walk to get inside, I then find out that I'm eating / interviewing with all of these people that just flew in from France for this position. And then they want me to walk in this heat in a full black suit. Like my makeup was melting. And hello, I'm applying, and I created and applied, and I'm like determined to get this job. And my makeup is melting off my face. And I'm like, you know what? I've come this far. Like everything happens for a reason. Like they wouldn't have flown all of them here if it wasn't this intense, like at this stage. So I obviously ran to the restroom and fixed my face, and thank God for Fix Plus, by the way. If you don't know about this product from MAC, it's like the best thing ever created. Fix Plus spray, look it up. And I sprayed my face with Fix Plus and made myself presentable and went back to the lunch table. We did the interview, and that was almost 2 hours, and, it's so nerve-wracking as it is in this position, in any position, when you're trying to get your dream job or just a promotion or anything, but then you have to eat in front of these people. It's like, oh my God, like, can you add any more stress to my plate right now? Literally, for real. So I ended up, I felt really good after that. And then they said, okay, so we'll definitely be in touch like the end of this week. And I flew back to Boston, and I went back to work, and it was 3 days, and I got the call on the way home from work. 3 days later, we'd like to offer you this position as national makeup artist for Lancome. You'll be going on ship to ship, training all of the makeup artists on board. You'll be doing the guest makeup. You'll be doing seminars. I ended up doing the ice cast and the dance cast makeup on my own just because I was friends with them once I was on ships. And this is a full-time salary position and blah, blah, blah. So I made my dream a reality. That is what happens when you are persistent, and I was not about to give up. So I got my dream job, and I could not believe it. Then I had to give my notice, and no one believed me at first because they were like, how the hell did you hide this from us? Because I tell everybody everything. And I said, I know, it was so hard. I've been doing this for like 8 months, and they couldn't believe it. But anyway, so that's my story. Extremely long story short about how I was able to get my dream job, how I was able to create and get that job. And now what we have is search engines and platforms like Google and LinkedIn, and it makes everything so much easier. So the advice, after giving you my own personal story, the advice I want to share with you is that if you're in a position to look for a promotion, you want to change companies, you want to get that dream job, you want to create that job for a company, you need to use LinkedIn as your search engine. Because if you need to know who somebody is, and they're on the top of a company, or they're in the head of PR or head of HR or marketing or advertising, they are absolutely 150% on LinkedIn. And literally you connect, you send them a professional inbox email, you get their email, you get them on the phone because you don't want to be spammy about this process. And you connect with them on a personal level and explain, introduce yourself, obviously, first and foremost. They're going to check out your LinkedIn, so you always want to make sure that that's absolutely perfect, tip-top shape before you do any of these steps, obviously. And use LinkedIn as your number one tool in order to get that job that you want or work for that company that you want to work for. Because now that we have these platforms available to us, it makes life so much easier, and it literally would take 18 minutes rather than 8 months, I think now, if I was going to get that job now. So I am going to do a whole nother podcast on what this national makeup artist job was and how I worked on over 30 cruise ships and the long story about that, and like so many crazy stories too. And I'm going to actually have a couple people that were involved in that time of my life on the I Chose This Life series, which is going to launch in September, which I had to push back for health reasons, but it's all good. Timing is everything, and I'm super excited about it. But that is what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, is how to get your dream job and how to create the job that you want and go after it. Persistence is key, and research is huge. You have to do your research before you even start to contact people. So if you need any help in this department, I live on LinkedIn. Please connect with me, Kellyanne Gorman on LinkedIn. Send me a message, or you can always email me at hello@kellyanngorman.com. I'd be more than happy to give you my 2 cents and give you some more info about other companies that I've worked for and how I went about getting those jobs, because I've done this once or twice. And you just want to make sure that you're a professional about it and that you do your research, like I said, first, and be persistent, and following up is key. So that is what I have for you today, and I cannot wait to share some more with you guys soon. Until next time. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you like this episode, please let me know by writing a review for the Happy Workaholic Podcast. I would truly appreciate it. As I always say, sharing is caring. Don't forget, the after show happens on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search under the hashtag The Happy Workaholic. That's where I'll be to answer all of your questions about any of my episodes. Now, if for some reason you're not on social media, you can always reach me via my website at kellyanngorman.com. Oh, and while you're there, make sure you sign up to receive my VIP newsletter. You'll be getting those delivered in your inbox every Wednesday. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk again soon.